r/nosleep. Posted by you/likeeyedid. For my 26th birthday I got a cake with candles I can't blow out. I hope it's not my last birthday. The bright morning sun was shining through the crack in my dark, red curtains. I didn't like being awake just yet, but the feeling of the sun on my skin somehow almost made up for it. I missed spring. I woke up in my childhood home, tucked gently into my bed with sheets that smelled fresh like lavender and that felt cozy as if they just came out of the dryer. A pleasant way to wake up. Very pleasant indeed. Until my mind started running, started thinking and worrying, and that is always where things begin to go wrong. Or, when I become conscious of the wrongness. As my mind woke up just a little more, the intrusive thought dug in like a worm. I shouldn't be here. The first shot of anxiety rushed through my body, so early in the morning. What a pity. I don't live here. These are not my sheets, not my softener smelling like fresh lavender. I don't live here anymore. I'm 25 years old. Last year I was back at home for a few months after I finished college. But after torturing myself with application letters and a bunch of refusals, I finally got my own place a little while ago. Well, technically I'm 26 years old as of today. As my thoughts become just a little clearer, I finally start to remember that I came home for the weekend to visit my parents so I wouldn't be entirely alone on this birthday that I'd much rather just skip. I am supposed to be here because I came here last night. I swear, my morning brain cannot be trusted one bit. Finally, I stretch and shake off those terrible intrusive thoughts as well as I can. Things are much better now and I should be feeling just swell. I even got out a smile when I heard Mom and Dad knock on my door. They've dressed up for the occasion, which is a little odd but also very sweet of them. I suppose they wanted to make the best out of this day. I couldn't exactly have a big party with the country being in half a lockdown after all. Mom was wearing a pastel rose dress with tiny white flowers and a wide white belt wrapped around her waist. Her lips were shining with bright lipstick and she didn't have a single smudge on her paper white teeth. She was even wearing heels that go with the style of the dress, though we're certainly not a wearing shoes inside type of family. Dad put on a nice pastel green shirt and even had a small bow tie tied around his neck. His face looked freshly shaved and he had a little spark in his eyes as he brought in the cake they must have baked in secret when I was asleep. Or maybe the spark I saw was just a reflection of the candles on the perfectly delicious looking cake. It was mint green with pink frosting flowers smudged around the corners and happy birthday written in a squiggly font. The top was embellished with 26 candles, 13 of them green and 13 of them pink as it appeared. However, it's hard to say for sure as the top of the cake was basically one big layer of fire. Very funny, I exclaimed after my 5th attempt at blowing them out. You do know April 1st was 3 weeks back? The stupid candles wouldn't blow out. Of course, Mom and Dad had to be all fun and get trick candles. Neither my lungs nor my mood was ready for those so early in the morning. Mom smiled, Dad grinned. Come on, honey. Blow out the candles. Mom said in a melodic voice. Make a wish, love. And make it a good one. Who knows how many more of those you'll get. They both started laughing. Yeah, funny Dad. I'm old. Just remember, if I'm old, so are you. I tried to joke but they didn't respond to that. Make a wish. Mom repeated. I wish for you to act a bit more normal, I nervously chuckled. They hadn't stopped smiling since they came inside. Mom only got closer to my face. I could feel her breath against my skin. It smelled like iron and cigarettes. When did you start smoking? I asked. Mom took a step back. She seemed to be embarrassed. I didn't like her picking up an unhealthy habit, but I also didn't want her to feel ashamed in front of me. However, both my parents lost their smiles when I asked about the cigarettes. Dad pulled the cake away again. Well, then I suppose your wish will just have to wait if you find it so terribly difficult to make a decision, young lady. Yes, very true, my dear. You tell her, Mom added. We will go downstairs for your birthday breakfast and you can have your cake then. They both nodded at each other and moved away from my bed. They took the cake that was still burning. The candles should have burned through the cake by now, but they were still standing tall. Then they turned around, without a smile let alone a word, and left the room. I heard them go down the stairs and that was the very strange beginning to the morning of my 26th birthday. But of course, it didn't end there. The next very strange thing was the gown I was wearing and that I certainly didn't remember putting on. It was white with hints of gold by the collar. I am more than sure that I didn't own a clothing item like that. I don't even believe my grandma owned anything like this. And I would have known if I put on something so terribly odd, which meant my parents had to be the ones to dress me. In my sleep. If this was another prank, then I clearly misjudged Mom and Dad. They were losing their minds. I didn't bother getting changed, so I could storm down there and confront them about their absurd actions. This was not the birthday party I had in mind. I wanted a nice and relaxed day with cake and maybe a few presents. As I jumped down the last flight of stairs in my strange gown, I heard the music. It was coming from the kitchen. A melody I couldn't quite place. All of a sudden my anger about the strange clothing vanished and instead I felt a miserable malaise. Slowly I stumbled inside the kitchen where I was taken aback by everything they had done. Balloons in every corner, confetti, and a big paper sign that said happy birthday. Fringe curtains were hanging from the windows. Even weirder, it all appeared as if it was meant for a child's birthday party. My parents were standing around the confetti-filled table. Their smiles were bigger than when they came inside with the cake, which sat in the middle of the table. Around it, however, were items that I believe were once meant for breakfast. But they were all rotten. I instinctively took a step back. "Mom, Dad," I whispered. "Yes. That's us. Your mummy and your daddy. Now swift, make a wish and blow out your candles so we can get your presents," Dad said without blinking once. "What's going on? I don't like this. Please stop," I muttered. Mom almost lost her smile again, but then she used her right fingernail to pull up the corner of her mouth. "Honey, this is your special day. We will never stop." My eyes wandered to the telephone on the kitchen counter. It was a green old telephone with a cable. The ones people stopped using more than a decade ago. I didn't even realize we still own one. It didn't matter anyway, this one had its cord cut through. Or was it burned off? I probably had left my own phone upstairs. I needed to get it and call for help. My parents were clearly unwell and I was getting incredibly worried. "Let me just get changed. And then we can have cake. Okay? I'll be right back." "No." They both shouted simultaneously. "You look perfect," Mom said. "Now make a wish," Dad added. Despite feeling incredibly uneasy, I took a step closer to blow out the candles. Maybe cutting the cake would distract them enough for me to go get some help. This time I took a very deep breath and started blowing as hard as I could. The fire seemed to only grow bigger. "If you won't, I suppose we have to blow out the candles. And steal your wish," Mom said and chuckled. "Why yes, Deborah. Would like to do the honors?" my father asked her. She got closer to the cake. So close that her entire face was now shining orange and red from the fire. So close that her makeup was even starting to melt. Or maybe it wasn't only her makeup that was melting. "Mom, your face," I whispered in shock. But she didn't care. "I wish for our sweet child to forever stay with us," she called out in glee. "Moron. You cannot say your wish out loud," Dad shouted. Now he was getting closer to the cake. Their expressions became even more forced and Mom's makeup was melting onto the cake until even her hair caught fire. "I don't think I'll ever get the smell of burned hair and skin out of my nose." "Mom," I shouted, but she didn't care. Not even when her face kept burning. I suppose that's what woke me up. Of course, I knew from the beginning that something was not right, but this moment set me over the edge. I shouldn't be here. I don't live here. And I have no fucking clue who these people are. I slammed the burning cake into my fake father's face and started running before the wrong mother could do anything. I got out just in time. I have absolutely no idea how they tricked me inside that house or into thinking that they were my own parents. They didn't even look like them, but I had been so sure in the morning that everything was fine. As my thoughts became more my own again, I started remembering that I went for drinks at my friend Clara's house, but I couldn't even say what day that was. How they got into my head and memories like that I will never understand. I was lucky my mind became conscious in time, or it might really have been my very last birthday. I ran and ran until I found help and was taken to the police. They went to the house as I had instructed them. It wasn't inhabited currently. Apparently, it had only recently been restored after the family that lived there died in a fire. I really can't say if those people were even real, whether they had lost a child and tried to lure a new one in. Maybe I was just an easy victim. Although I'm not sure how they knew about my birthday. When the police found the house, there was nobody there. The fake parents were gone, but they did leave one thing. A mint green cake with pink frosting and 26 burning candles.